Well, you know, Piers, you're the first person to say how limited Prince Harry is, unfortunately, and how his wife trades off her husband's fame and fortune, or not so great fortune now. I mean, this is the problem, but we're still interested because, after all, he's a great character in our modern day.
And so he became hypersensitive and blamed the media for the crashes of his relationships, never thinking that they could have something to do with himself. So he's a very complicated, depressed, unintelligent man who is seeking a role and has got really nobody on whom he could rely, which is in the end where Meghan stepped in. I mean, a needy man met a woman who could help him with his needs.
A fresh report has recently surfaced, painting a starkly different picture of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's relationship than the one commonly portrayed. According to this insight, rather than being a loving partnership, the couple's marriage is surprisingly hollow. Instead of affection or shared dreams, what binds them together seems to be ongoing drama and endless criticism, almost as if the chaos surrounding their lives is the glue holding their union intact. This volatile connection is no longer framed by unity or genuine companionship, but by constant public controversies that swirl relentlessly around them, making their bond feel more like a fragile truce than a true partnership. Digging deeper, the report also highlights complex language tied to their business dealings. It suggests that ownership clauses related to their joint ventures, intellectual property rights, and potential future earnings could become critically important, especially if their financial relationship ever shifts. While these claims have yet to be independently verified, they've already stirred up a storm of speculation among devoted royal observers and insiders.
Report says Prince Harry and Meghan Markle don't really like anything about each other.
I think personally, they've separated their professional lives, but I think what's really a great problem for them now, as of in the last few weeks, is that Meghan has got no real income anymore. She's finished.
The real reason Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's marriage is an empty sham. Constant drama and criticism are the only things holding them together.
Meghan Markle really did expect Harry to be a billionaire when she met him. She was incredibly disappointed to find out he's only worth a couple million, and she's gonna have to actually work and hawk these jams and jellies and dog biscuits to have the lifestyle that she wants.
A man who she abandoned for months to the media, and now presents her mother, Doria, speaking for the first time, telling outright lies about her ex-husband. I mean, this was a calculated attempt against the family.
The Sussexes' bond is now only sustained by the controversies that regularly engulf their public lives.
Some experts watching these developments have pointed out that these business complications might shed light on why Meghan reportedly reconnected with the reputation management firm Sussexes in early 2026, a move that raised many eyebrows. However, not everyone agrees with this line of thinking. A number of analysts argue that there are plenty of perfectly normal, routine reasons why Meghan might be engaging a public relations company, things that have nothing to do with personal disputes or financial tussles. Although there's no concrete public evidence linking Meghan's renewed association with Sussexes directly to any of these financial or relational rumors, the timing undeniably sparked a wave of lively debate and speculation in public forums. To truly grasp why this ongoing conversation has caught so much attention, it helps to take a step back and understand how prenuptial agreements typically operate.
Tom Bower, the legendary royal author, is sharpening his quill for a new edition of his book set to reveal huge secrets inside Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's marriage.
You know, a story has officially gone off the rails when you can type about 6 words into YouTube's search bar and get back 40 nearly identical videos, all with the same breathless title, all claiming to have exposed the exact same secret. Like it's a group project nobody actually did the reading for. That's basically where we're at right now with this whole Meghan's secret divorce clause story. Somewhere out there is apparently a hidden clause buried deep inside a marriage none of these channels have ever seen a single page of, that Harry allegedly signed without even realizing it. which, if true, would be genuinely impressive, because that man reads contracts for a living now. So naturally, we had to come sit down and actually look at what's going on here, because this one has gotten a little out of hand. Welcome to the channel, where we take these wild, breathless royal headlines and actually hold them up to the light before we let ourselves get swept away by them. Because on this channel, we don't just repeat a rumour because it's got a dramatic thumbnail attached to it. We dig into where it actually came from and whether it holds up. If that sounds like the kind of sanity check you've been missing from your royal news feed, go ahead and hit subscribe right now, because we've got a lot to unpack today, and trust us, it gets more entertaining the deeper we go. So here's the actual story making the rounds. Author Tom Bower, a name that, if you've watched any of our previous videos, you already know shows up an awful lot whenever there's a new wave of Harry and Meghan headlines, has reportedly discussed something described as a hidden divorce clause connected to the couple's marriage. And almost instantly, this alleged clause became the hottest topic in royal commentary circles, spawning wall-to-wall coverage, reaction videos, think pieces, and enough speculation to fill an entire content calendar. Commentators everywhere have jumped in with wildly different takes on what this supposedly means for Harry and Meghan's future, and just like that, we've got ourselves a full-blown royal news cycle built on a claim that, when you actually go looking for the source, gets a little slippery to pin down. And that's really the first thing worth flagging here, because when a story spreads this fast, this wide, and this identically across dozens of different channels, using almost word for word the same dramatic phrasing, secret, exposed, Harry had no idea. That's usually less a sign of a major investigative scoop and more a sign that a catchy rumour has been photocopied across the internet by channels chasing the same trending keywords. We're not saying that automatically makes it false, but it should absolutely make you pause before accepting it as settled fact, because everyone is saying it, and it's actually true, are two very different things. And the internet loves to blur that line whenever there's a juicy royal angle involved. So what would a divorce clause even mean in this context? In the world of prenuptial and marital agreements, clauses like this typically deal with financial arrangements in the event of a separation, asset division, spousal support, that sort of thing. It's honestly a pretty standard feature of high-profile marriages, especially ones involving significant wealth, media deals, and business interests, which Harry and Meghan certainly have. Having a legal agreement addressing what happens in a worst-case scenario isn't scandalous on its own. Plenty of couples, celebrity or otherwise, have arrangements like this in place as a completely ordinary form of financial planning. The scandalous part being pushed by these videos isn't really the concept of a clause existing. It's the claim that it was somehow hidden, and that Harry supposedly had no idea what he was signing, which honestly starts to sound less like reported fact and more like a dramatic narrative device designed to make the story feel juicier. And that's worth sitting with for a second, because think about what that claim is actually implying. It's suggesting that a grown man, a former working royal who has dealt with legal teams, contracts, and public scrutiny his entire life, somehow signed a legally binding marital agreement without understanding a key term inside it. That's a pretty significant claim to make about someone's basic legal literacy and judgment, and it's exactly the kind of claim that should come with solid, verifiable sourcing. Court filings, named legal experts, an actual copy of a document, something concrete, rather than just being repeated breathlessly across a wave of nearly identical videos that all seem to be citing each other rather than any original source. This is honestly where we want to slow down and talk about how this entire genre of content tends to work, because once you notice the pattern, you can't unsee it. A claim gets floated somewhere, sometimes based on a kernel of real reporting, sometimes based on almost nothing at all. And then it spreads across dozens of channels, each one adding its own dramatic flourishes, its own shocking adjectives, its own slightly different spin, until the original claim is buried under so many layers of embellishment that it's almost impossible to trace back to anything solid. By the time it reaches you, the viewer, it's been through a game of telephone dozens of times over. And what started as an author reportedly discussed a clause has morphed into secret divorce clause exposed. Harry had no idea, in all caps, with dramatic music and a slow zoom on Harry's face, looking mildly concerned in an unrelated photo. And look, we get it. This stuff is entertaining. There's a reason these videos get clicks, because a juicy secret exposed story is way more compelling than reportedly, according to unnamed sources. There may be a standard legal clause in a private agreement that we have no actual access to. Then, nobody's clicking on that headline. But entertainment value and factual accuracy are two completely different things, and part of what we try to do here on this channel is give you both, the fun, the drama, the commentary, but grounded in an honest assessment of what's actually been verified versus what's just been repeated enough times to start feeling true. So where does Tom Bower fit into all of this specifically? As we've talked about before, Bower has built a career on unauthorized, often unflattering biographies of high-profile figures, and Harry and Meghan have been a recurring subject of his work for years now. His reporting tends to lean heavily on unnamed sources and insider claims, and time again representatives for the people he writes about, including the Sussexes, have pushed back hard against his characterizations, sometimes outright disputing the accuracy of what he's reported. That doesn't mean everything he's ever written is wrong, but it does mean that when a new bombshell tied to his name starts circulating, especially one framed in the most dramatic possible terms and repeated identically across dozens of unrelated channels, a healthy amount of skepticism isn't just reasonable, it's basically required. Here's something else worth thinking about. Even if we entertain the idea that there is some kind of legal provision addressing a hypothetical separation buried somewhere in Harry and Meghan's private arrangements, that alone tells us absolutely nothing about the state of their actual marriage. Plenty of financially secure couples build in contingency planning as a completely routine, unromantic, practical measure. The existence of a plan for a worst-case scenario is not evidence that the worst-case scenario is imminent or even remotely likely. That's like finding out someone has a fire extinguisher in their kitchen and concluding their house must be on the verge of burning down. It's simply not how contingency planning works in marriage or in business. And that's really the core problem with how this entire story has been packaged and sold across the internet. It takes a vague, unverified, second-hand claim about a legal provision, wraps it in language specifically engineered to imply marital collapse, and then lets that framing run wild across dozens of channels that are more interested in matching the trending keywords than actually questioning whether any of it holds up. Meanwhile, the actual confirmed facts here are remarkably thin. An author reportedly discussed something, and from there an entire online ecosystem of speculation, reaction and commentary sprang up almost overnight. So here's where we land on it, at least for now. There's no verified documentation being shown here. There's no named legal source confirming specifics. There's no statement from the Sussexes themselves engaging with this particular claim in the way they've directly pushed back on other Bauer reporting in the past. What we have is a claim attributed loosely to a controversial biographer with a well-documented pattern of critical disputed reporting on this couple that has been amplified into a full-blown viral narrative, largely because it's dramatic, shareable, and fits neatly into the ongoing appetite for stories suggesting trouble in the Sussexes' marriage. Until something more solid actually surfaces, real documentation, a direct response, a credible named source, we think the responsible move is to treat this as exactly what it currently is: speculation, not confirmed fact. That said, we get why people are talking about it, and we get why it's captured so much attention, especially against the backdrop of the ongoing conversation around Harry, Meghan, King Charles, and the broader royal family. Every new claim about the Sussexes gets absorbed into this much bigger, ongoing narrative about their standing, their relationships, and their future, and that context alone is enough to make even a shaky, thinly sourced claim feel like a bigger deal than it might actually be. So, what's your read on this one? Do you think there's genuinely something here worth taking seriously? Or does this feel like another case of a vague claim getting blown wildly out of proportion by an internet content machine that thrives on drama? Let us know down in the comments. We always read through them, and honestly, some of you spot inconsistencies in these stories faster than half the channels reporting on them. Before we wrap up, if you appreciated us actually slowing down and picking this story apart instead of just repeating the same dramatic headline everyone else is using, do us a favor and subscribe if you haven't already, and turn on notifications so you catch our videos as soon as they go live. We're going to keep doing exactly this, taking the viral claims, the exposed headlines, and the breathless speculation, and giving you the version that's actually grounded in what can and can't be verified. If you're already subscribed, smash that like button, share this with someone who's been sending you those secret clause videos, and tell us in the comments what story you want us to fact-check next. And remember, just because 40 different channels are saying the exact same thing with the exact same dramatic music doesn't mean any of them actually know something the others don't. Stay sharp, stay skeptical, and don't let a good thumbnail do your thinking for you. Thanks so much for watching, Sussex Strong. We'll catch you in the next one.